So again, we are in our array, we are wanting to go to each cell in the array, hence the loop is being used. And because I want to accumulate the values, I want to add up all the values in the array, I create an accumulator. My accumulator is called sum. I then accumulate sum, assign the value sum, and this is the value in the array. ARR4 is the name of the array, and square bracket I takes me to the different positions in this array. And as the loop executes, each time, each value is being accumulated inside of the array, keeping in mind, since I'm using an accumulator, it must be assigned to 0. Then to find average, once the loop has completed and the sum has been obtained, then you find the average by taking the sum and dividing it by the number of numbers. I get the average. Keep in mind, I'm using slash. That is real division. So when I'm outputting, I'm going to want to output to 2 decimal places or 1 decimal place. Therefore, I'm using float to string f, and I'm outputting average. I'm fixing it with 2 spaces after the decimal point. So this is how we go about finding sum and average. A common mistake students sometimes make is they find average inside of the loop. Average only needs to be obtained once after the sum has been calculated. Let's look at the concept of finding the highest. Again, we have our array. The array has its values that are stored in the array, and we want to find the highest. The way we go about doing this is we create a variable called high, and we set high to the first cell in the array. We set it to the first cell in the array. So let's put some values in here. 10, 8, 12, let's make this 29, and let's make that 15. So as a starting point, I set high to the first cell, which in this case is 10. So high has a starting point of 10, which is the value in the first cell. I then run a loop, and I'm going to check each value to see if I can find something higher. And if I find that the next value is higher, then I replace my high value with that value. And that process just continues, and by the end, this variable high will have the highest value. The loop is starting off at 1. Some of you may say, why don't we start it at 2? Because we already have the first cell stored in high. I would agree with that. This loop can start at 2. We then check ARR for I. The first value I takes on 2, so we're looking at position 2 in the array. Position 2 in the array is 8. I check if 8 is greater than high. 10, is 8 greater than 10? That's false, so I don't go into the condition, and it then takes me back up the loop, and I now becomes 3. I then check if ARR4 3. Remember, this is my array, ARR4, position 3. Position 3 is 12. Is that greater than high? 10. Is 12 greater than 10? Yes, 12 is greater than 10. So the value in the array is now being stored into high. The value in the array at position I is 3. I is 3. So that value 12 is being stored in high. So high now has the value 12. Loop goes back and becomes 4. We then check position 4. Is 20 greater than high? Is 20 greater than high? Yes, it is. So replace high with 20. And you can see each time how the new highest value is being stored in high. Go back up, I becomes 5. Is 5 Position 5, which is 9. Is 9 greater than 20? No. Go back up. I is 6. Is position 6, which is 15. Is that greater than 20? No, it's not. Go back up and the loop has completed. So we come out and display a message. The highest number is, and we print high, which stored the highest value. So this is the technique in finding highest. Should you want to find the lowest value, then the technique remains exactly the same. You probably want to create a variable called low because that's more descriptive. And you will set low to the first cell in exactly the same way. And then you run your loop like we've just done, run the loop. But each time you don't want to check for greater than, you want to check if the value in the array is less than your low variable. And if this is less than the low variable, then you replace the low variable with that value. So the technique remains the same, only two changes. Better to use a variable named low and change your greater than sign to a less than sign. A search, in my opinion, is an extremely important technique. In other words, you have an array. The array contains a set of values, and you get a particular value, and you want to determine whether that value is contained in the array or not. That is a typical search. So this is the array. The array has some values like we had done. So let's put in some values. Let's ask the user. We want to search for a particular number, and let's say the user wants to search for the number 15. And we want to know where is this number 15 in the array. So where is it in the array? So we know 15 is there, but I want to know at what position is 15 in the array. But just glancing at it, we can see, yes, it's there at position 5. But if we don't know what the values are in the array, how would we go about this process? In doing so, we are going to use a loop, and I'm going to check if the value in the first cell, if that is a match. No, it's not. Then go to the second cell. This is a linear search. Check to see if that is a match. Check to see if that is a match until I find the match. When I do find the match, I want to track the position. So the question is, what will tell me the position? We know that ARR4 is the entire array. ARR4I, this is the key. I tells us the position of the value in that array. So when I is 1, we're looking at position 1, and ARR at position 1 is 20. So ARR4 square bracket I gives you the value. That's the value at position. Where is that value in the array? It is at position I. So we need to track this position I as we going through this array when we do find a match. So let's do that. I'll come back and explain why this Boolean variable is being used. Let's now just try to see how this process of the match works. Run a loop, which is going to allow me to check each cell in the array and check if ARR4I equals to the number. Remember, num is what I'm looking for. So as I changes, I'm checking cell 1, is it equal to num? Go back up, I becomes 2, cell 2 equal to num, cell 3 equal to num, cell 4 equal to num. In this case, cell 5 equal to num. Yes, I found a match. Cell 5 is equal to num. And then I say the num was found at position I. because I was 5 and I told me the position where the number was found. So that's effectively the technique if I'm searching. The challenge comes in if I'm looking for, let's say, the number 16. Let's take 16. The number I'm searching for is 16. And you know from the numbers I have in the array that 16 does not exist. So how can I tell whether the number is in the array or whether it was found or not? The value of, or the concept of using a Boolean variable, flag is just a common name that we use. It could be any name, really it doesn't matter. This variable can take on two values, true and false. So the technique, we say, let's start it off at false and say that the number does not exist. And when we do find the number, then we'll change the variable to true. So that will be an indicator of checking this variable flag. And if flag changed to true, it means we found the number because the condition had to have been true. But if flag remained false, then it means that the number was not found. So that is essentially how we go about using this technique. Flag set to false. When I find it, set it to true. And check the value of flag outside of the loop. When this loop finishes and reaches the end, and if flag at that stage remained false, that would mean that it was not found. This value that we were searching for was not found, because if it was found, the value of flag would have changed to true. A common mistake when attempting to search for a value in an array is writing code like this. So here is my array. Let's assume I'm searching for the value 15 again. And I run a loop from 1 to 6. I check if the value in the array is equal to the number. In this case, the number is 15. And if it is found, output found, else. So here we are saying else, output not found. So this is a common solution that students write in attempting to perform a search. Let's see the problem with this solution. The first value I takes on is 1. When I is 1, I'm looking at the first cell, ARR1. ARR1 is 10. Is 10 equal to the number? The number I'm searching for is 15. Is 10 equal to 15? That's false. So because I have an if and an else, automatically when the if fails, I go to the else, and it's going to say not found. The problem using an if and an else inside of the loop would mean that each time you're looking for the number and it does not find the number, it's going to default to the else and it's going to say not found. So for the first number it checks, it's going to say not found. The next number, it's going to say not found. The next number, it'll say not found. Eventually it gets to the number, it finds a match, and it is then going to say found. And then it continues, it'll say not found and not found. So beware of using an if statement together with the else inside of the loop. That's going to create problems. The way we eliminate that problem is using the Boolean variable that is initially set to false. And when I find what I'm looking for, I change it to true. And when the loop finishes, I simply check that value to determine whether flag remained true or it changed, or whether it remained false or it changed to true. The next technique